Wow. How are you doing today? I'm Susan Lynn. I'm a psychic and a medium. Today we're going to be talking about transformation. And I didn't know we were going to be talking about transformation if you're new here, and some of you are, and thank you. I am channeling this, literally have no notes. There is nothing in front of me. I sit down at the computer and I do this series called Wisdom on Days, or the acronym of WOW. There are over 100 of these videos. So just think about that for a minute. 100 times, and probably by now 110 times, I've sat down and just said, what do you want me to talk about, right? Sometimes they give me an inclination of it the day before, the morning of, and when I say they talk to me, I mean I start getting thoughts. I start getting thoughts that I know that are not my own, because I don't think about these things, right? I'm not concerned about these things. They're not talking to me about, Susan, don't forget to get this at the grocery store. I'm thinking about things that are bigger picture or whatever. So today it's transformation. And I really didn't know what we were going to be talking about until literally about 15 seconds ago. And I think it's funny because they want me to talk about how I transformed my life to be where I'm at now. And I would just say that transformation is never, I want to say it's never easy. Another thing that you should know is that I am channeling this about 60% my spirit guides, 40% Susan. So Susan will weave in and out of the message, and that's what I just did. It's like Susan doesn't feel transformation is easy. And they're showing me a picture of an embryo and an egg for a chicken, right? And then something happens in the egg. I don't know. The embryo grows and grows and grows. And then all of a sudden it knows that it needs to peck at the shell to get out of the shell. And then it needs to literally destroy its home. If you think about that for a minute, right? That little chicken at some point is pretty cozy in there, right? And yet you've got to destroy your cozy, safe home for this existence that you don't even know is safe. You have no idea what's going to happen when you peck a hole in that shell. It's the same thing. The little baby sea turtles that are just know that they have to make their way to the water. They don't know why, right? That's biology, right? They're just doing what they know that they need to do. So what's interesting about humans is that, of course, we have biology, right? We talk about women with their biological clock that ticks, that, when you get to be a certain age, if you haven't had children, you really might start thinking about it if that is something that is in your life plan. So right now, we're now at the intersection of science, biology, and a really fuzzy concept called soul contracts or energy. Really, we're at that intersection right now because, yes, your biological clock is ticking. Let me tell you, mine clicked and ticked, and I didn't choose to have kids. So it's not a foregone conclusion that the biology, that your human biology is going to say, you've got to do this. That is not a foregone conclusion. And that's what makes humans so very unique and interesting, is that we have free will. Okay. Now, so free will is an interesting concept because we can, for let's say 98%. Now, this is not written in stone, obviously. There are no real information. No, there's no written in stone information about the things that I'm going to talk about. I don't know everything. I am a human. I am channeling some sort of ascended being. But even so, humans are not supposed to know everything because, well, the game of Earth is about learning. And if all of us knew how to win this game, well, some of us would probably end up being megalomaniacs and being in charge of everything, and the others of us would be bored and we would want off of this planet. Now, you may want off of this planet for other reasons, but being bored and being able to solve all life's mysteries is probably not the reason. Okay. So we are supposed to be in the dark. We are supposed to be sort of feeling through and figuring things out on our own. But when you talk about transformation, and the reason I switched over to free will is because there are areas in your life where you just don't have free will. Now, those areas, in my estimation, in my understanding of, and I've done thousands of sessions and taught thousands of people, I'm still not a guru. This is just my understanding of it. I could be all kind of wrong. You, dear viewer, you need to use your discernment and say, this woman is batshit crazy. And just turn the thing off, or stick around and see what else she's going to say, right? It's really up to you, because you have free will. What you're going to believe, what you're going to put your stock in, right? So in my estimation, we really have roughly about 2% of things that it's just decided when we get here. Now, I'm going to continue talking about transformation, but I do need to talk about, well, the transformation of you as a soul on the other side, planning your life, saying, you know what, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to experience this, I want to work with this other soul, and I want them to be my father in this life, or in this life, I want them to be my sister, but in a past life, they were my brother or my boss. Yeah, that's the way it works, you guys. I really suggest you read Journey of Souls. I didn't write the book. I don't, the author has passed away. I get nothing from this, but I have really found that book, I've often called it the human instruction manual, because I feel like if you read it, you're going to get really caught up on what basically the game is here, being a human on earth. The book is called Journey of Souls. So this guy was a hypnotherapist, and he was hypnotizing his patients to help them. And he accidentally, what is that word they want to say? Something. He brought the patient further back than he should have. You know, maybe they didn't just get taken back to their childhood to figure out why they're mad at their dad. Instead, they went all the way back to that time between lives. What a fascinating concept to know that there's a time between our lives where we're actually planning this life you're living right now. And yes, there are some things like your parents that you didn't get to choose. Even if you're adopted, that was part of the plan. Maybe the part of being adopted was the plan. Maybe the adopted parents was left up to chance, or maybe the whole thing was planned. So yes, you came down here and you said, I'm going to have kids. I'm signing the dotted line. I'm going to have kids. And if that's the case, and this is why I'm circling back, because this is, having kids is one of those things where the biological clock ticks. And those of us who said, no, I don't want to have kids, are not going to have kids. We're just not. Those of us who said, we are going to have kids. Well, sometimes you want your free will. You're saying, no, I don't want to have kids. And then you get to be, say, 40 years old, and you have that child, because guess what? You signed the contract. This soul is waiting for you to bring them into this life. You said, I'm going to be a mother to this soul. So you're on the hook for it, basically. Same thing with men, right? It doesn't matter if you're supposed to have kids, you will have kids. Now, there's gray area here, because there's the people who said, I don't want to have kids. I'm not going to have that be a part of my soul experience on earth. And there's others who said they did want to have kids, and they wanted that to be their soul experience on earth. And then there's in the middle, the people that said, I don't know, we'll see. I'm up for whatever happens. And those people really, truly have free will when it comes to that. And you can apply that to a lot of things, right? So you might have, they're showing me, you might have said, I want to have these kinds of parents that were wonderful, supportive, normal. Or you might have said, I want to have these parents that were addicts and terrible parents. Whatever you agreed to, that might be set in stone. However, how you react to that, gosh, they always want to call it stimuli. Anyway, however you react to that situation is your free choice. Okay, so that's where we get into transformation, because yes, you said I want to have these things, but how you react to it is how you can transform that energy or that situation. Okay, so let's talk about me for a second. They want to say, so right, so I could see ghosts when I was a child. Look, it didn't get me anywhere. I've done a lot of videos about this. It wasn't very helpful. I didn't find it fun or wonderful. Now, some people saw ghost and thought this is the best thing ever, because their circumstance was a little different than mine. Okay. In my circumstance, it was scary. It was not something that I liked or enjoyed. And my family life was not very good. And therefore, I didn't have any support in that. So even though I could see ghosts and I could see I could see everything across the veil, it was very easy for me. This is something that I literally ran from. Okay. And I also experienced loss early in life, and in the losing, I lost my mom when I was 7. And so I didn't want to see dead people. Dead people were the last thing that I wanted to have anything to do with. Okay. So as I go through my life, I chose to go into a creative field, which is astrology is really important, you guys. And if you look at your astrological chart, you can see a lot of this is explained very clearly in your chart. And my chart does show that I'm a medium and a psychic. It also shows that I have this creative energy around Neptune, which rules photography. So I became a photographer for literally half of my life. And I really thought that was it. That was going to be my career. Now, my soul path. Okay, this is two different things. Let me make a distinction here. Your soul contract, in my estimation, 2% of your life, 2% is not negotiable. You're going to have the kid, you're going to have these parents. You might even have this event in your life that is formative. Okay, that's 2%. That's your soul contract. You contracted to do this. Your soul path, your soul journey is different. This is what your soul wanted to experience in this life, how your soul wanted to grow in this life. Now, the other distinction they want to say is, so a soul contract often involves other people. That's why it's a contract. You came here to have this baby. That baby's waiting on you to have the baby, right? Like you can have it when you're 40 or you can have it when you're 20. It's up to you how you want to experience that raising of that child. Okay, so our contract often involves your parents, other people. It could even involve a person like a spouse, or it could even involve an event in which other people are involved in it. So it could be a great event or it could be a horrible event, but it involves people. That's why it's a soul's contract. You're saying, hey, I'm going to do my part, you do your part. Okay, let's jump in our baby bodies and we'll connect when that gets ignited, when that soul contract gets ignited. Okay. Now, the soul path is different. This is your path. This is where we're talking about transformation also, because, well, your soul contract can offer you a wonderful opportunity to transform from a parent to a parent, from a person that never had children. So that's a transformation. You're transforming into a parent, right? A soul path is transformation, and it's so much more subtle. Nothing is making you do this. There is no contract here. Now, the transformation with your soul path looks like this. Me, I'm a photographer. I chose to be a photographer, right? There's no contract around me being a photographer. There's no contract around me being a psychic medium. There's no contract around me being a teacher or being on YouTube or any of those things. Now, what's interesting is there's still guidance. And what I would say, the human part of me would say, there's still pressure. Okay. Because your soul path is something you wanted to do so badly when you were designing your life. You designed your life. You said, okay, I'm going to do this contract. Now I'm going to do this path. The path is something you really wanted to do so much, but there's no contracts, nobody to make you do it. But because it is your soul path, your spirit guides will help guide you to do it. So this is two areas the guides are saying where your free will amounts to nothing. So you have no free will when it comes to the contract for sure. But when it comes to the soul path, you do have free will, but your spirit guides can override your free will to give you messages and to guide you towards your soul path. Now, if it's not something that has anything to do with your soul path, they don't care. They're not going to help you. If you have got a terrible relationship right now and it has no bearing on your soul path, they're not going to get involved. They're not going to jump over your free will. Again, you have 98% free will. Now, if it's on your soul path, they still can't make you do anything, but what they can do is they can create situations where people come into your life to move you in a new direction. They can help you sort of get moved out of situations like get laid off from work or get a new job or different things like that. They can sort of be a little pushier around you to guide you towards your soul's path. So what happened for me is I was a photographer for 22 years and the pandemic came and I had already had my spiritual awakening and I knew that I was more aware and also more accommodating of speaking to ghosts and talking to spirits and getting messages from my loved ones and my spirit guides. So I was more open to it, but I still didn't want it to be a career. I didn't think it would be a career and I didn't want it to be a career, but they got a little extra help. Well, there was a few times in my life where an opportunity for me to switch careers, but I chose not to. Again, free will. I lost my whole photography business after a hurricane, and I had 7 feet of water in my studio. That would have been a really good opportunity for me to say, you know what, let me reconsider who I am and where I'm going. But I really hadn't had my spiritual awakening by that time. So the timelines didn't match up. Okay, but I do recognize now that that was a real opportunity for me to switch, to transform, to have that transformation energy. But instead, like a human, I doubled down on being a photographer. I doubled down. I said, I will build it back better, right? So I did that. I built it back better, at which point they turned up the heat on my spiritual awakening. What does that look like? Well, it means that instead of dabbling in this or experiencing ghost or experiencing any type of thing like that when I wanted to, in other words, when I chose to experience it, I started having these experiences when I chose not to. Let me tell you, this kind of work will teach you boundaries in a big hurry, because if you don't have boundaries, they don't have boundaries. And imagine if you could tell your husband or your wife or your kids to be quiet or go in the other room. Well, guess what? Your spirit guides and ghosts and everything else, they're in your head. It's a lot harder to tell them to tone it down. Okay. So you have to learn boundaries, right? So what happened was my spiritual awakening was they made it harder for me to live in the world without accepting that I had these abilities. Okay. So transformation. In this case, my spirit guides were helping me transform by saying, you know what, Susan, you're supposed to switch careers. You're supposed to transform from being a photographer to being a psychic medium. Back to the baby chick in the shell. Who would leave their happy little cozy shell? Who? In that case, biology just forces them. You know, they have this biological need to want to peck at the shell. They actually have a sharp beak already ready to go. Well, humans, we don't have that kind of pressure to transform unless it's around your soul contract or your soul path. And your soul path, they can't make you do anything. They can make you so uncomfortable that you do it, or they can give you beautiful opportunities to entice you to do it. I mean, they'll do everything they can to get you on your soul's path, but they can't make you do it, right? So for me, they gave me opportunities in the sense that I had friends, I had people around me who were encouraging me to do this work, who were encouraging me to be authentic and to step into my power. And that was wonderful, right? That was really helpful. But I wasn't budging. I was like, that's all great and fine and sure, but I'm going to make this photography thing happen. Meanwhile, right? Meanwhile, if you hired a professional photographer ever in the last year or two, you realize that it's harder to find them because people have cell phones that are so good. The quality of your cell phone imagery, the quality of the photos is so amazing. And it's always with you, right? The best camera you have is the one you have with you. And so my photography business was really suffering from cell phones. And so that was a pressure that was being put on me, right? So, and I kept just, again, trying to make it work. I wasn't ready to transform. I was going to stay in my little baby chick shell, nice and happy. Well, then the pandemic pretty much helped me do that, right? Like all these things kind of lined up perfectly to help me say, okay, I'm going to transform. Now, also, I've already told you that I was able to get messages, and you can do this too. This is not just for me. Basically, when you're in a position to ask for help, it's when you're going to start getting messages. That's why many times, not always, but many times, people that have spiritual awakenings, it's after an accident or after an illness because we're asking for help. We're really fervently trying to connect with a higher power and ask for help and for guidance, or even to complain, why is this happening to me, right? Well, guess what? You're ringing their bell. You're sending them emails. You're sending them text. When things are good, we don't do that. We stay in our shell. We're happy. When things are tough or horrible, we start asking, why is this happening to me? What's going on here? And then maybe you seek a reading from somebody or you get your own tarot cards or oracle cards, but that's basically saying, I need help. That's when you get it. That's when you can have this transformation energy, right? So for me, they were also telling me, you're going to stop this career, this photography career. And I was like, no, I'm not. And that went on for about 16 months. I kept saying, no, I'm not. And they said, yes, you are. And I said, we'll see who wins because I'm like, I'm a human. You can't make me do it. Well, guess what? The pandemic pretty much made me do it. So all of these things conspired for a transformation, for me to transform. Now, I really honestly could have just kept going, right? I could have made it work. I could have kept doing the photography. But they kind of somehow, I think they wore me down, actually. I think they just wore me out and wore me down until I said, okay, I'm going to transform. So transforming is really important in your life, and it is not easy, and it can be scary. It can be challenging. And what I would suggest, if you've got an area or if you're in the middle of a transformation, right? A transformation can also be, I've retired and now I'm transformed into a retiree. Even if you're still working or something else has changed, your identity has changed. And that's a big thing that I think people that retire don't always understand, how difficult it is to lose the identity of that job or of that skill that you did at various jobs. And yes, we're all excited and we're all like, I need a break and I can't wait to retire. But if you don't have a new identity transform into a new identity, it doesn't work out well because you just end up being exhausted and a slug, right? You end up being a slug for the rest of your life, for 5 years, 10 years. And you can ask doctors, I know this is true, but I've also heard it from doctors that people that retire and just don't have hobbies or have a transformation into a new identity, they just don't do well. Their health goes downhill. You know, that job kept you fit, or it kept you on a schedule, or it kept your mind engaged. And now when you're home sitting on the couch all day, every day, your body just gives out at that point. So that's a transformation as well. Okay. And I think it's important that we're talking about this right now because we're entering into the year of 2025, which is a transformative year. It's a 9 year, which is endings. We're wrapping it up. And I mean, wrapping up your relationship, wrapping up your identity of who you are with your friends, with your family, with yourself, wrapping up maybe a stay in a town or a location, wrapping up a career. You might be changing careers. These are all transformations. This whole year is a year of transformation. And the spirit guides show me, and this is such an important thing, they continually show me this all the time, which means the energy is very important. And I think all of us can understand musical chairs, right? Someone plays music and there's a couple of chairs, but there's not enough chairs for everybody who's playing to have a seat. So the music plays and everybody goes around the chairs. When the music stops, everybody dives on a chair. The idea of the game, to be successful, to win, is for you to get your butt in a chair. And the person who doesn't get in a chair is out of the game. Okay. So my spirit guides have been saying this year is musical chairs. So that's in and of itself an interesting concept, meaning we're all walking around. We're not settled. We're not settled. We're trying to see if we can get one of those chairs. We know we might not. We might be left out. That's already bringing some anxiety, right? But you know what's really interesting is my spirit guide said, do you even want those chairs? Are you playing this game for something that you don't even want? Maybe because you're afraid to transform into something else that you really do want, that you're not willing to risk the transformation to get something you really, really want. And instead, everybody's fighting over something that they don't even really want. Perhaps something that society has said, you better get this job, you better get this degree, you better get this relationship and get married. But do you really want that? So they're inviting you right now to think about your life and think about, what do I want? Because I don't want to be stagnant. I don't want to be stuck. And maybe transformation is exciting. Maybe the idea of something new can be wonderful and exciting and an opening to more happiness. Because really, how happy am I right now? How satisfied am I right now? Because the thing about 2025 is that if something is not working, it's not going to stay in your life the way it is. So if it's broken in any way, it can't stay in your life like that. It's going to transform, it's going to end, or it's going to get better. So it could get better, but it can't stay broken. So this is also for you personally, for your personal mindset, your personal health, your personal mental health, your personal just happiness and joy. I'm not happy right now, or I am happy right now. I'm like so happy with everything. Then the transformation could be more happiness. Okay. The transformation could be that you're happy, but your spouse isn't happy and you're not aware of that. And then the transformation could be, oh, you're not happy? I didn't know that. Right? Or you're happy at work and you're feeling complete. You're feeling like this is a good job, but the transformation is the job ends. So the thing to understand here is that if you're happy and you're pretty self-aware and you're pretty healthy mentally, then if something ends, you really have what it takes to move on. Of course you're going to be upset. Of course you're going to be sad. You're going to be angry. All those things, of course, that would be normal. But you're going to react to the stimulus, back to what they said in the very beginning. You're going to react to the stimulus of, okay, my mate is not happy. Let's get therapy. My job is making some reductions, laying people off. How can I make myself more valuable to them? Or how can maybe it's time for me to shop myself and my wares and my qualities around. Don't wait until it's broken, right? So they just showed me a picture, and I think this is a little bit of a crazy picture, but you can't stay in the egg. You've got to break out of the egg. And if you stay in the egg too long, it becomes a prison. It doesn't become a beautiful, happy, safe place to stay. And if it becomes a prison, then the 2025 year energy will create an opportunity for that prison, for the doors to be open. However, that has to happen because this is a transformative year. So what you can do right now is take stock is basically what they're saying, or write a list. Here's 3 things that I'm happy about. Here's 3 things I'm unhappy about. And if that's all you can do, fine. That's enough for right now. Just making the list is huge. It's huge because now you've told your brain, I've got work to do. I need to do something about this. It might even surprise you what you're happy about versus what you're not happy about. You might be like, wow, I didn't realize that, right? The thing to do is to be gentle with yourself. If you're going to yell at yourself or blame other people, that's not going to be helpful. Please do not blame other people. The bottom line is that yes, you might have had terrible parents or terrible childhood. I did. At some point, you just got to pick yourself up and live your life. It's really about you and your choices, how you react to the stimuli. My spouse is not very kind or loving. Okay, black and white, that is what it is, right? What is your reaction to that? Is it to stay in your bedroom all the time? Is it to not talk to them? Because in 2025, that's not going to be an option. How the transformation might take place is you get tired. You're just like, you know what? I know I've put up with this for too long, for years and years, longer than I should have, but I'm not going to put up with it anymore. And I'm really at this place where I would live in a 1-bedroom apartment to get out of this situation. Some of us are like, would live under a bridge to get out of this situation. And that's where we're going with this transformation energy. Don't wait until you're so fed up with something that you're like, you just don't care anymore. Like, I just don't even care what happens. Because if you don't care what happens, you're not building, you're not transforming into something amazing. You're just getting whatever's left over. You're like, okay, I don't care that I didn't get a seat when the music stopped. I'll just sit on the ground. I don't care. Another way to do that would be, you know what? I'm really sad and I'm really upset that I didn't get a seat. But you know what? Maybe this is an opportunity for me to transform and go in this other room where there's plenty more seats with people I like better. The power is in you. Yes, there's outside forces that are going to kind of buffet us, kind of push us around, and kind of show us things in our lives that maybe we're not aware of. But the bottom line is how we react to that, how we choose to transform is up to us. And we can make a much better decision about how to move forward if we do it before we get so upset and so over it that we just say we just don't care anymore. We'll take whatever as long as I get out of this situation. Thank you for tuning in to this Wisdom on Wednesday. I have, as I said, over 100 of these videos. I will show you a link here shortly that you can click and you can go right to the playlist. It's all free. It's like a whole masterclass in anything spiritual. So I hope you'll click on some of the videos and just spend your time rewarding yourself and nourishing yourself instead of pouring in the news and any toxicity that might be out there. Why not bet on you? Why not take care of you? This is how you transform. This is how you make 2025 your best year ever. Okay. And also, I have an online community, 850 people there. It's basically like a Facebook, but it is my Facebook. So Meta's not involved. Nobody's involved but me. And everybody goes on and talks about their dreams and talks about maybe the tarot card or the oracle card that they pulled, or they talk about their family. It's just a community full of people just like you. And there's a political side and there's a metaphysical or spiritual side. And you get both of those. It's all included. You can chat, you can post things, you can post videos, you can post pictures. And then I spend 4 hours plus a month with you. And I do offer members readings where you show up and by lottery, you might get a reading. So if you're interested in that, that's something else that I do on that community. You can find that in the link down below, but it's at my website, which would be SusanLynnMedium.com. You can find all of that there. Take really, really good care of yourselves. I'll see you again next Wednesday. I also want to tell you about a new class I just put on my website, Reawaken Your Soul's Destiny. We're going to be talking about what is your soul. We're going to be talking about divinity and your God self. We're also going to be talking about the history of your soul's destiny. We're going to be talking about self-empowerment, and we're going to be talking about how to repair any disconnections that you have to the seat of your soul. If you're interested in this class, it's $37. I'm teaching it with my dear friend Afefe, and you probably know us both. We have taught thousands of people by now classes. People really find our classes really interesting. So if you're interested, go to the website, www.SusanLynnMedium.com. That class is March 1st, and it will be recorded. So if you want to just purchase the recording, go ahead and sign up for the class. Take really good care of yourselves. I'll see you really soon.